take number 3. But that's okay. It is now 9:55 a.m. and it's June the 16th, and we're going to be talking about If It Bleeds from Stephen King. Alright, now that I got myself together, let's try that again. Well, hello there, this is Shane from Shane's Reviews, and I hope that you are having a great day today. If you're not, here's hope it gets better. So today we're going to be talking about a Stephen King book. I still have all my hair, which means that perhaps this wasn't such a bad experience as the last couple that I've had to read, which is good. And before I get into everything, okay, so it's narrated by Will Patton and Danny Burstein and Stephen Weber. So a quick word about the narrations and stuff inside of it. Nothing was in there that really took away from it. And maybe one of the things that I would suggest to Audible and recording companies is to make a decision about the chapter marks, because in some formats it works not having any, and others it doesn't. And the reason why I say that is, like on a short story, or if somebody's playing with the way that they're trying to deliver material, it would help the listener to know that this is new subject matter. Just putting it out there, food for thought, do what you will with it, but that's my 2 cents. I really wish that they would do something like that. So this thing is a collection of short stories. The first one in it is Mr. Harrigan's Phone. The second one is The Life of Chuck. Third one is If It Bleeds. And the last one is Rat. Now, in the beginning of the book, you have, of course, the dedication, and then at the end of it you have the author's note, which I haven't read or listened to because no. The reason why is because sometimes reading those author notes can ruin an experience. So before I do that, I want to make sure I give the review on the rest of the material, and then we'll be good. So the reason why I think that this worked a little bit better for me, there we go. The reason why I think this worked a little bit better for me was because of Stephen King deciding that he was going to play with the material instead of just delivering it in the way of which he usually does. Now, some of the stories are standard in the way that they're formatted. Some of them are not. And that was the thing that kind of caught me off guard, was because I got through the first story and didn't know that there was a second story because I hadn't looked anything up about it. But I figured that out quickly. But then it was like I was listening to the same story, kind of, some of the same characters, and I caught it, and I was like, wait a minute, what's really going on here? Why am I off balance all of a sudden? What's happening here? So I went back and started listening to the first part of that second story again. But whenever I was listening to the second story, I listened to the first part of it, I got into the second part, went back to the first part, and then everything kind of came together, so now that I understood that was what was happening, whenever I got to the third part, I was like, okay, I see what's going on here. So it was kind of cool to see that, and it didn't really answer itself on why this person was this, that, or the other, or whatnot, in my own humble opinion, but the way it was wrote, it made it entertaining enough. As far as the third story, which was If It Bleeds, that one was interesting because it was a continuation from The Outsider, I do believe. So we had some of the same characters in there that we did in The Outsider. And then Rat, which that was, let me know if you like that one or not. That's up to you. So just to go over them quickly, I liked it because it felt like some of the old school Stephen, God bless. So the first one was Mr. Harrigan's Phone. And Mr. Harrigan's Phone, it was more of a story that was kind of old school Stephen King kind of a writing. There was a horror element to it. There was some development that happened before, but we got to know the characters in a really good way, and then we move on to the next part of the story, and then the next part of the story, and ultimately it came down to a question for myself that I'll pass along to you guys and gals out there is, if you had that ability, if you knew that if you did something, then justice could be served, usually in very unique ways, would you be able to live with that? Would you be able to do it? And it's one of those really unique things. It's a good concept. I mean, it's not an original concept by any means, but the story itself, the way it was told, it was interesting and enjoyable. I don't really want to give any of the details away about it because it was a enjoyable story, and it was an enjoyable experience getting through that one. As far as the second one, that one, I mean, the way it was told, the device he used to deliver it, that's what made that shine quite a bit, really. And that was part of the reason why I enjoyed it, was the, wait, what? Huh? What's happening here? So that was kind of a fun thing to get through. As far as the third one, which was If It Bleeds, which is the self-title part of it, that, I'm glad he went about it the way he did, because I abhorred going through Dr. Sleep. And the reason why I abhorred it was because there was an author's note that I jumped to immediately, and it gave me the heads up that, hey, I'm going to rewrite this story that I did years ago that everybody likes, but I've got this idea of what if he was a functioning person instead of a non-functioning person. And it killed the experience for me, because I had already heard from other people that that's kind of what that was, and so I wanted to verify it, and then I just found myself just not caring at all. And I didn't enjoy that story. It had some elements in it that were good, but I don't know. I feel like that was probably an error. If it had been me and I knew that this thing that I had created people had seen or read, or there had been movie adaptations too, I would have respected the original thing and just came out with different names, and or used the same names and just retold the story the way that I wanted to, instead of using his kid to be him, but then not. You know, I mean, it just kind of, that rubbed me wrong. It rubbed me sideways, and I didn't much care for that. It wasn't really a good experience overall, and so I really don't recommend it. And the movie, oh my God, is so much worse than the book ever dreamed of on that. But with If It Bleeds, let's bring this around. Let's get that circle to complete with the ADD brain today. Yes. Yummy. So the thing that was kind of cool about that was we already have established behaviors for particular characters that are in this story. We already know that this character is likely to do this. This character is likely to do that. But they were thrown into a short story where it was kind of a re-emergence of the outsider. And what if there was variants of it? What if there was more than one of it? Because that was kind of alluded to in the originals. That was kind of alluded to in the original story, and so kind of seeing how they would progress without particular people being in there, and the way that it wrapped up was kind of interesting. So all the way around, it was a pretty good read. At first, whenever I got through the end of If It Bleeds, I wasn't upset, but I kind of felt let down. Here's why. I've always had this thing about, and it's just been ingrained in me from a very young age by myself and just by seeing other literary people do the same thing, is that be true to the story, be true to the characters. You know, I've got this age-old thing that I use, it's an old trope, but you know, if you have a priest that's in a story that you're writing and that priest has never said a curse word, why would they start? And would it be within their character to actually do it? And as you're writing the story, you'll know your character. Your character won't necessarily talk to you, but you'll know what they would do or how they would react. And so many times recently, I've seen people just throw that convention to the wind and take the spaghetti western cliffhanger out of yeah, let's just do it this way instead. Even though we know they wouldn't do that, or they're not qualified in any way. Never have we made a mention that this can happen or that they have that ability. But surprise! And not only do they drive a race car, but they're also a nuclear physicist. You know, that kind of a thing. It's aggravating. But that wasn't what was I wasn't upset, but just kind of deflated. It's that he was true to the story and was true to the characters. Because I really think that the way that ended is the way that that would end. And so I appreciate that. And I appreciate him not taking the easy way of making it more grandiose and making it this or this. He simply did what should be done. So I haven't done this for Stephen King in a long time. Please, the clap. Give him the clap. Good job, man. That was good. And then there's another story in there as well called Rat, which that will be the one that we won't say anything about. I'm curious to see what you guys and gals think about it. If you have read it, please do that thing down there in that place where it seems to be getting harder to get to the comment section. That's right. And let me know what you think about that story. I want us to have a little discussion about that. As far as like final thoughts about it, I mean, if there was like an emotional thing that was able to get pulled out of me, at first it was I'm not really paying attention, but then it got my attention, and so that's a pretty good statement. Any other things? It wasn't like a roller coaster. There wasn't a whole lot of feels for me while I was listening to this, but they were entertaining. There's one caveat on Mr. Harrington's phone. That one kind of stuck with me for a few days after I read it. And the reason why, again, is because of really excellent storytelling, but it had to do with that connection that these two people would have had. Because so many times people will judge based upon an appearance or based upon, you know, previous things that have happened in life. And I understand, as I said at the beginning of the video, people grow, people change. So, you know, I try to be fair whenever it comes to that, because just because somebody said something or did something years ago that was horrible doesn't mean that they haven't grown from that. Sometimes they don't, but most of the time people do. So I try to think positive. I try to believe positive in people. And that was the thing about that story, was the way that Mr. Harrington was viewed by so many, with the exception of that kid. My personal life, I have a situation just like that whenever I was a young child, where my grandfather, everybody was afraid of this man. Well, great-grandfather. And for good reason. I found out later on in life why. But it's one of those things, my memories of him and my experiences with him were so different from the other people that were just 10 years older than myself. And of course there were things that were happening, but the point is the man grew into a better version of himself. And so my memories of him are a lot different. And it's kind of the same with that first story, where the young man's idea and concept of who Mr. Harrington was so much different than those around him. Anyway, if you made it this far, you are my hero. Thank you so much for watching or listening, whichever it may be. If you would do me a big favor, just do me a solid. There's this red thing down somewhere where you can click on it, and it's a subscribe button. That would really help the channel out quite a bit. And if I did something that you liked in here, please feel free. Or if you like the edits, you can hit that like button, whichever way. So, I'm not sure which one of the two videos over here you would pick whenever they do come in. But if you do pick one of those, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Bye.